Hello, good morning, have a good day. Depends on where you are. So in here in Munich, it's morning. This time, SAP IP Business Talks are in the morning because of our guest. I'm very happy to have Martin Schweiger with us. So he is from Singapore, and so today we talk especially with our Asian guests. I hope so. We are live. That means when you join us, we are absolutely happy when you write in your comments questions, comments for our discussion. We will pick that up. We can see that here in the StreamYard environment. We will pick it up, and I will ask that in addition to Martin. So we are very happy when you interact with us. For the moment, I would really like to learn more from you, Martin. So I
Okay.
saw you first time, I guess. It's quite a long time ago on a presentation, and then again with Bastian Best and Felicitas Pansav in a very, very interesting podcast where you introduced the 5 patent types. And I was
Yeah.
really fascinated because you are so clear, so precise, so open also to explain to the IP community what's really going on and what you think
Yeah.
about that. So
Thank
my
you.
question is, and also for the audience, what is your background? What you are so full of experience, and you had a very successful practice there in Singapore. So explain us a little bit about you. How did you came into that field, and about your background and experience in that business?
Oh, my background. I'm born in a little town in southern Bavaria, in near the mountains. Um, Munich, the next one, and um, and when you grow up in such an environment, then you can do lots of things that the kids in town cannot do. So, and I discovered tools and things that to make, and I'm an inventor since a very young age. I remember I discovered electricity with the age of 3 when I inserted knitting needles
It's
into
quite
a
early.
power. Yeah. So I'm the uh, yeah. So my mother had a horrible time with me, and I've yeah. So I'm into technology since very early. I'm also a trained motorbike mechanic in the repair shop of my father. So, and of course, then I went to college and then university, and the closest would be um, engineering, mechanical engineering, and then I went into electronics, and then I started going around. I worked in several countries and continents and whatever. Ultimately, I ended up age 26 being done with my university master's degree. At the time it was a diploma, and so there was a recession 1993, and nothing to do for a mechanical engineer age 26 in Germany, even so, no job and nothing. And then the only guys that wanted to know from me were the patent attorneys, because of my number one, I'm very good in doing and reading technical drawings, and number two, I'm good in languages. And so I worked there as a translator. And after a very short time, I thought, okay, what this guy can do, I also can do. So I enrolled myself into law school and then became a patent attorney. And then, age 29, opened my own firm, and then started looking around for work. And the easiest was to ask at the big MNC multinational companies in Munich, and they handed out work easily. So, and I did this, and I specialized in patent drafting and in other stuff. And just to cut things short, today
So that
after
means, excuse me, that means you have an industry background also, so you know the situation in the bigger companies also.
yeah. So of course, but from outside, I was always a freelancer and never employed by any one of the big ones. But what I wanted to say, today we recently 2 years ago switched to a new office system, a computer system, and only then I realized that I had worked on 18,000 patent applications in my lifetime in
Not bad.
27 years, and about 4,000 or 5,000 trademarks. And
Wow.
so I'm very good in reading patent applications because I cannot do them myself only, right? So I always had between 5 and 15 people drafting that for me. I did the quality control, set the standards, looked after the after fulfillment. So yeah, so that's my background. And very early, I ended up in Singapore because the Siemens company at the time asked us, "Can you also do the same patents in Singapore for
Yeah.
our department?" There, they opened an R&D center in Singapore, and without knowing what I said, "Yes, of course we can." Yeah.
Quite a big step, isn't it?
Oh, was very small, and then yeah, it started small, and then there was SARS, then there was the financial crisis, then there was the Euro crisis, then there was, and I was so happy to always have a second leg outside of Europe in a non-Euro country, and that as it looks now today, I focus on Asia. Yeah, is now to in the I'm now in the latest third of my career. I would say my plan is to work until 80 and then half day. So and that will be in Asia.
Okay,
Very
thank you very much. I
likely.
mean, that's fascinating. It's a lifetime full of work and lots of experience, and that's really what I would like to talk a little bit about, because you're pretty much a fan of innovation, and that is for just to say that. So I have a lot to do with partner Tony's IP experts as a teacher, as a professor, and it is not so normal that a partner Tony is really interested in innovation. Yeah, there's something different. I mean, this is not the invention, obviously, what typically makes the work. It is the much bigger aspect of innovation, which has a lot to do with markets, with success in the market. And yes, you some partner Tonys talk with you about it, but when you just check how many partner Tonys writing, let's say, a white paper or even a book about innovation, yeah, that is a really rare case.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And mine is here, right? So
yes, you have. I know.
yeah.
I wrote a big comment on that, and
Yes.
I like it really. And so the first question is, when it comes to innovation, I mean, nobody's in doubt that from a macroeconomic level, innovation is a good thing. Okay, it comes with the Industrial Revolution, and for 200 years, it drives our world, and of course, it makes the world and the life better for people. That's for sure. Nobody's in doubt about that. But when we go down from the macroeconomic level, when you go down to microeconomics, which means to industries, then we see that innovation shakes industries, destroys industry, reassemble industries. And unfortunately, the fact is that for companies, innovation can be extremely deadly. Yeah, and so ask the former employees from Kodak what they think about the innovation of digital photography, and all these examples. And when we go further down to individuals, yeah, then it is even more dangerous and even more so from a startup perspective. So it's a completely different picture. So innovation can be seen as a deadly beast. So you work in the interplay between IP and innovation. And despite on the fact that many politicians say this is very easy, yeah, you just protect your invention. Yeah, but unfortunately, it isn't that easy. And you have really an opinion and your experience in that interplay. So what do you think? How can IP really help innovation?
Number one, that's where I started. I did IP for 27 years or 25 years until the first time I was actually that was in the lockdown in COVID-19, the first lockdown. I was sitting there and I was asking myself, what am I doing here now? My peers, they go for retirement already. And I said, hey, what did I do in my life? And then 18,000 patents. So how valuable were these 18,000 patents? And then how many of them were for MNCs? Many. How many of them were for startups? Also many. But how many successful startups do I have? Very few. And how many unsuccessful? Well, I've seen 100 bankrupt startups from inside, more than 100. And why? Because when the startup is at its end, liquidation, then the bankruptcy liquidator always wants to sell the patents. So
Yeah.
I'm his favorite guy. And we sell the portfolio, so I also know how much is paid for a patent or not. And then we have a talk, we have a nice dinner at the end, and then we talk about the startup and why it went bankrupt. And so I found the reasons why startups go bankrupt to a degree that I can predict it. And I also saw 600 failed products from small to big companies. Why? Because the companies then give up their patent portfolio for their product. So, and whenever I lose a patent, it's like losing a child for me, because I really love them.
I mean,
so yeah.
What I really like, Martin, what I really like is the the story of innovation. It's a little bit like history. It's always told from the perspective of the winners. So when we hear stories about innovation, it's always about the winners. It's about the success. And innovation has more or less success in it, because what should that be, an unsuccessful innovation? I mean, that's not existing. Then it was simply not a success and not an innovation.
So, there's an Asian wisdom here. So when you look for success, look first for the failures, right? Even if you're very smart, because however smart you are, you will face the same mistakes.
Absolutely. And that is what I really like, that you try to learn for others out of the mistakes, of the failures, and not just out of the success. I mean, it's good to have best practice case studies to analyze the success, but it is at least that has the same value, maybe more, to learn from what didn't work. And you made this matrix, this 4x4 pattern in your book, and also you provide so many tools out there for IP experts on your homepage. So you try to proliferate your knowledge, your expertise, and that can be used in different tools. And this pattern, this matrix, is one of that tools. Can you explain us how that can be applied?
Yes. Just to finish the thought about innovation. So what is innovation? People have no definition of innovation. Innovation comes with three components. Innovation is power. If innovation is not power, then it's a hobby. So number one, you must have some gain. It must produce profit, or at least savings that translate to a profit. This is the Schumpeter part of the definition. Then it should come with a novelty. If you just copy someone at the same place, then you are not innovating. You're just competing with other guys for less price. But you should somehow be different from what is there. I'm not even talking about inventive step here. I have to only talk about novelty. And number three, the whole thing must come in a short time, because the definition is power. Of power is effort divided by time. So once we agree on that definition, you need to translate it somehow into a strategy. And people always confuse strategy with tactics. And my 4x4 tool is a strategic tool. So it would give you the big picture. You step out. It would never tell you what you do next, but it will always tell you whether what you do is successful or not, because I've seen patterns in successful innovators. And the patterns are not in my book yet. They are in a separate book that is to come, but also on a talk on my website. The one that you have here, the pattern would be that people walk through the 4 areas of innovation, which is number one, the R&D. That is self-explaining. Then the freedom to operate, often underestimated and never done. Only number 3 is the intellectual property, and number 4 would be the market response testing. Without the market, no innovation. And now you need to synchronize somehow the advance in these 4 areas. And the way I synchronize this is over the technology readiness level. So a product goes from technology readiness level 0 to, some say 10, some have 4, whatever. But technology readiness level is the perfection of the product. And it starts from the idea under the shower, and it ends on the shelf in the shop. And on the way from the idea under the shower to the shelf in the shop, you increase the technology readiness level. And what most people do is they build a product, and only when the product is ready for distribution, they would start to do freedom to operate, IP, and then the market response. And they most of the time find out that they go bankrupt because nobody wants that product. And I've seen that so often. And that was the motive for me to write the book, because I thought, hey, people need to know that knowledge. So we have that knowledge. Because so what I say, for each technology readiness level, make sure that you spend a certain effort on each one of the 4 areas, and only go up to the next level in the technology and the product perfection once you have a confirmation from the market that this product is wanted, which means there's proof that people are willing to pay money for it. Proof to pay money.
I mean, that is more or less what these agile methodologies say. So that what you described is the classical stage gate process.
No. It's often confused.
Let me just ask. Give me a second, okay? So no, you say the opposite. So you say the bad practice is this stage gate thing, and
Yes.
what you say is that an agile methodology or a design thinking approach, what is globally agreed, that the sooner you have a contact with the potential buyer, the sooner you get a market response, the sooner you integrate IP in the discussion, the better. I mean, that is what I understood, and I can only agree on that. And this is really a part of what I'm teaching. For example, this morning after our live talk, I will be in Carthago in Tunis again for the WIPO, and my students are also here, and this is exactly what we're talking about. But it is obviously a challenge. So we can say it's much easier. So bustling around in my garage and making the perfect product and involving these expensive and stupid attorneys as late as possible. Yeah. So it's easier. Yeah. Because I don't have to interact. I don't have to explain. What I'm asking is the following: these methodologies, design thinking, agile methodologies, Schweiger 4.4 matrix, is always the same. It's interaction, it is communication, it is bringing expertise at the early stage on the same table. That's the logic. And this is not a guarantee of success, but it is have much more success than the other methods. But it means that you have to collaborate, you have to cooperate, you have these different expertises with their different language, with the different mindset on one table.
Exactly.
How can you manage that, Martin? What is your experience?
Once people understand the common denominator, then everyone in the team is aligned, and the common denominator is the product perfection, which is the technology readiness level. Never the managers, the stage gate managers, they have timelines. But in innovation, I mean, innovation falls into 2 parts: the incremental innovation and the non-incremental innovation. I for myself, I prefer to work in non-incremental because this is how I am. I know I would say that 80% of the patent attorneys would prefer to have incremental innovation patents because they can be planned in every aspect. Then you can apply your waterfall. Then you have predictable success. What is success? Yeah, if I plan an incremental innovation, then I would know already from the beginning that I can sell 5,000 of my products. That I would consider that success because it brings the butter on the bread. But the 20% with non-incremental innovation, or even the 4%, the 20% of the 20%, they would give you profit margins that are hyperbolically above the normal profit margin. So they come with a lot of chances, but also with a lot of risk. And the problem is you cannot manage them with the normal management tools. And the normal management tools use as a common denominator time, and maybe budgets. And how much did we use of our budget?
I mean, there are scholars out there who say something which is very right. Innovation management is a very strange thing, because management is exactly what you say. It manage more or less the status quo. So when you come up with a radical innovation, maybe a disruptive innovation, whatever.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when the big leap, so new markets, new target groups, new supply chains,
Yes.
everything is new.
Everything new. Now, there's a wide fields. So how would you manage this thing if you I mean, there are ways to manage, and managing means applying agile methods, then the law of big numbers, then what the design thinking is doing. But then the question is, then the IP attorneys would show up and say, okay, I understand what you do, but where I am here now, so come back when your product is ready. And I say, no, this is wrong. No, you
I mean,
no.
this is, Martin, that's really on the very point of the issue. So it is the question, and this is what I always challenge students, practitioners. So what happens when a patent attorney is in the room and no invention disclosure is already there?
Yeah.
So nobody thinks that there is something invented. Is that the right place for a patent attorney?
Yes, it is.
And as you said, I would say yes, exactly. Help them. I mean, this is the funny thing, because typically a good patent attorney, we have so many out there, when they get let's say not perfect invention disclosure, okay, some rubbish, okay, some I have an idea and now make a patent. So what happens then? The patent attorney will help the inventor, because so far nothing is invented, it's just a crazy idea or whatever. So then there will be a discussion, and in that discussion, in this process, at the end, the patent attorney will have helped the inventor to make something meaningful, but at the end can be patented. And when we now, I mean, that is the process, when you now integrate also market experience, market expertise, also sales expertise, product management, all these other competencies into that process. I mean, this is what you're saying, Martin. So it is not that different.
It's not only us patent attorneys that have difficulties. The same applies to the marketing guys. And if you look into one of the most famous design thinking book, is the one of that German in the MIT, I believe. I forgot. Yeah. So he has curves when marketing should start, and he would start after the prototype, before the product. I said, no. The same as for the patent. You must know your market before you even put money into the development of this breakout innovation, breakthrough, whatever. And then so it's not only us patent attorneys who are guilty, it's also the marketing guys. And
no. I don't point the finger. I don't say anybody is guilty. Okay, it's a question of background. It is a question of expectations. It's a question of training. It is, and also the marketing, the marketing guys, or the design. Also designers, they tell me that they say, I'm much too late in the process, so people just want from me a fancy housing, but design is so much more, and I can't do that because it's too late for the product. And so it's the same thing. I mean, the smart process starts with that expertise together, but that means all of these expertises has to be able to deliver. And that is something what I learned from your book, from your tools, that you really try to enable, to make your IP community ready to deliver, to bring something to the party for that very for the fuzzy front end of innovation.
Yes. Speed is king. Alex.
Okay.
If you're not fast, then you cannot. All these R&D methods, they changed so much. There was design thinking that has become very strong over the past 15 years. Then we have TRIS, which is a very powerful creativity method. Then we have this agile style, the Scrum, the Scrums that they run, and all these, they produce so many new inventive, I call it not even invention, I call them innovative aspects of a product. And the question is now, how can you capture all these on harvest these innovative aspects into IP, Save costs, of course, because you cannot file 1,000 patent applications for 1,000 design thinking ideas, right? Which is there, and also
Doesn't
do it
make
in a
any
very
sense.
in a very short time. How can you capture 100 ideas in 3 days? That's the challenge. So we IP guys, we need to catch up with the development in R&D and the new techniques that have been created. And now we have ChatGPT, right? So the people would be even more productive than before. How can we catch up with that and provide value? Because the ultimate product may look very, very different than our the traditional patent application that we made, let's say, 4 months into the R&D process, and also catch up with the freedom to operate. The world became more complicated, and most people think freedom to operate is only patents and trademarks. No, freedom to operate today is mostly about government regulations. Is are you allowed to do what you want to do? And I don't even ask about patents, because if we design a breakthrough innovation, something that is really non-incremental, there are no other patents out there. There is no competitor. There's nobody interested in what we do. But of course, there are some, yes. But the challenge is here not so much about how to protect myself, because it would take a few years from filing to protection anyway, and we are at the early stage of a new thing. How can we make sure that we have harvested all the inventive ideas so that we can later convert it into something that is protectable, for example, by a patent?
What I really like what you say is when you say we have not a shortage on ideas. And that is really, for me, that is one of the cornerstones. So I have a colleague in Milano, Stefan Verganti. And Verganti is a wonderful lecturer, teacher. He gives wonderful TED conference presentations. And I will show it in the show notes, in the comments. I will give you the quote and the link, because what he's saying is the problem is not the idea. And in former time, we had this light bulb as a symbol for innovation, a symbol for an idea. Today, we live in a world which is bright light. So we have too much light. So we are blinded by that much light, and that is the problem. And this is exactly what you say. You have to filter out. You need evaluation skills, and you need your estimation, your assessments of what we really want. We need that vision. I mean, there's a very, very important point, that we should not too much focus on this ideation per se, because the limitation on ideas is gone with the internet, the mobile internet, now the chatbots. So this is not our problem.
No.
What I also very much like is what you say about the freedom to operate issue, because we have different studies, and the problem really arises with the innovation in digital technologies and software-based technology. So you're an expert in that software industry and the patent activity there. And because these innovations go on top of already existing technologies, already existing logics, we have a big freedom to operate issue. I mean, that we should address that really here.
Yeah, but yes. I mean, always underestimated. FTO, freedom to operate, has so many aspects. Actually, if you're a good FTO expert, you can even make a better living than anyone else in the industry, because it is always, there's this court in Dessau, Amtsgericht Dessau, which is near between Berlin and Hanover somewhere. And this is the appeal court for the fines that are handed out by the German Umweltbundesamt, the environmental body of the German government. And I was there for a client of mine 2 years ago or 3. I was just within COVID, and he got a hefty fine for not registering one of his devices with that body. and that cost so much, 20,000, 30,000 euros just for a little remote control, if you want to say. And I met all the people there. There was a Korean car manufacturer. They had a problem because of the tire pressure sensors that run on battery, and they're also not registered. And the whole industry the whole economy was sitting there defending themselves against the 5,000 euros fines, and that's all avoidable, and that's also falls under freedom to operate, and it's neglected. So, yeah. But let's come back to the speed issue. I'm really out there because I'm not competing with the patent attorneys. It's not what I want. I always go for niches where I don't compete with others. And I have here a message. If there's a patent attorney out there or someone who wants to become one,
we can assume that.
Yeah. There's the speed from collecting something that looks like an innovation, an invention, to converting it into a written form so that it can file as a patent application is more important than ever before. Computer is not about lowering price, and ChatGPT and all this technology is not about getting the same work done for less money. It's all about increasing speed when we talk about innovation, because innovation has the time in this fraction. Because if you do the same innovation in less time, then you have a higher power. That's the definition of innovation. And so if we talk about computer and innovation, we must do the same thing, but in less time. And this is where the robot patent drafting comes in handily, because now we can use the GPT technology to draft the same patents as before. And in my own case, I can tell you, the robot that I'm using enables me, a senior patent attorney, to draft a patent. Before, it took me 2 months to draft the patent from an invention disclosure, and today I do the same thing within 2 days. And I got all the fun back also as a patent attorney. Why did it take 2 months? Because after a half an hour, I lose the interest in drafting a patent. I sleep, and I almost poked out my eye on the pencil because I was sleeping over a patent. Now I do the same thing in maybe 5% of the time. Now the fun is back because this computer does all the boring work for me. So now I can really promise, give me your invention disclosure today. The day after tomorrow, you get your patent application. We can even file it.
Okay, let's wait a second. I try to understand what you're saying. So let's start with speed. I mean, that is maybe the most important impression which we have. This is nothing new, by the way. I mean, I'm the professor here, so I have to bring some cultural background in the discussion. So you know, I'm absolutely sure you know that there was a big discussion when the first steam engine railways were developed, and these trains were able to make a ride with 25 kilometers per hour. That was amazing, and people discussed how that will change their life and so on. And so over the whole industrial revolution, people realize and speed up of their lives. Yeah, that started back with the electric light and electricity and everything. So, and what we see right now is really an acceleration in the whole innovation field. This is unbelievable. And when we imagine, so ChatGPT came public in the autumn last year, and it took them. This is an amazing figure. It took them 2 months to get 100 million users, registered users. So this is a speed this is never seen before for a tool. And then Microsoft decided to come out to integrate chat as an open AI tool and chatbot into all the Microsoft tools. We talk about 1.3 billion users at the same time. Okay, so this is never seen before, and that will change our life definitely. And so what you say now is that innovators So startups, companies, they should also follow that speed, because otherwise they are lost. So first to market is an issue.
Money loves speed.
So and now the next, absolutely, and the next step is that you say, and now the patent attorneys have also to follow that speed, and that now is the question: how can I be an attractive patent attorney? And you say there comes the robot drafting in.
Yes.
So what do you mean that you say it is an efficiency tool on the one side, on the other side it brings fun back, because the human expert can focus on what is really relevant, and all the boring stuff has just be checked from the human expert, but not done. So is that how I understand you correct?
Yes, exactly. Is that's exactly the point. This coming weekend on Saturday, we are having even a workshop. You find the information here in my personal website. It's not my firm's, it's my personal blog, and the goal of that workshop is we will cut the steep. Robot patent drafting comes with a steep learning curve. When you do the first robot patent draft, it will be a failure. It will discourage you. You will not like it, because you do all is you have a new program, and you don't know the idea of the behind, and they're all different. And so, but I know them because I'm an inventor myself in that area. I filed patent applications for that, and I know all the robots and all the manufacturers, and they know me, and they come in and they dedicate 14 hours, and people can play with the robots, and there will be other people around who help you overcome hurdles. We also have predefined cases that you can play with, and I promise, I guarantee that if you take a training seat at that workshop, within one day I bring you from 0 to 100. You will have the same fun again as I have. That comes my guarantee. And that is the important thing when you start with that you need somebody who helps you, because the surface, the user interface is not intuitive for none of the products out there. But is it
Okay. So what I learned. So I'm following the chat right now, and there are certain questions which, if we don't touch every point in the live discussion, Martin and I will be available, and we will answer to all of your questions later on LinkedIn. But one thing seems to be obvious here, that the audience would like to know. They have a novelty issue. So we have this Samsung case. And at Samsung, the engineers used a free version of ChatGPT. And obviously that is not a good idea, because then you definitely give something to the public. So I assume that you're using some a chat bot, which is disconnected to the internet, obviously.
Okay.
I mean,
we had this symposium in September last year in Cannes, and I published a white book on that, and what in very short words. So that white book has on how many pages? 60 or so? No, 78, 75 pages. Covers all the aspects, all the black hats, all the worries, and of course data security is one of them. What I can tell you is, no one in the industry who is manufacturing patent drafting robots has an issue with data security. Yes, if you use a freeware that sits in the internet to draft your patent application,
not a good idea.
I mean, come on, but a decent chatbot, a decent patent drafting robot, one patent application would cost you a few €100. And now, are you seriously telling me that you think that you can get the same thing for free? I mean, how does that work? I mean, cannot. So, and of course, if the Samsung people are, and you know what, I'm even not sure whether they really did this, or whether this is a true story or not. I
Oh,
cannot
yeah,
imagine.
Samsung now, we have an email from Samsung that says that when that happens again, they will fire people. So I would assume that something is true there,
Yeah,
but it's not our discussion today, obviously not. I
yeah,
mean, it's exactly what you say. You need the right tools, so
yeah,
don't publish it and don't use free of charge tools in the internet. That is dangerous, especially in the IP world. I mean, that is obvious, right?
yeah,
So, but what you're saying is it is a thing of training, and it can be learned,
yes,
and it is relatively fast. So you have a steep learning curve. You
yes,
even say you can cut the learning curve. I mean,
yes,
I learn a lot from Martin Schweiger. So he's the one who cuts learning curves. That's
yes,
impressive. So others have steep learning curves. He cuts it. So wonderful. I mean, I would be happy to learn more from your participants after the workshop. We should organize that, but we can communicate what
cool.
what they
That's a
have
good
learned.
idea.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, absolutely. So we should ask them, talk with them, and I mean that absolutely the chatbots will change the industry. There's no question, no doubt about that. The
yeah, yeah,
question is more in which direction it will work. And I like pretty much your vision that it is about having more fun, having really the experts here in it, the expert work, and control what you're doing, and being more efficient, and serving better for innovators. I mean, that's the point.
yes. Again, is all about. I compare it. You know, when I was a mechanical engineering student, then we were trained to do hand drawings that were taken over by draftsmen that have a technician background, and then they would put it into on a white piece of white paper plus in black ink, and very soon these vanished. And I remember I did this as well when I was a student for making a living. And then someone came and said, now, please, can you put this bearing about 20 millimeters to the left? And I said, what? You know what you say here? There's a whole gearbox behind it. If I push this bearing to the left, then the whole other gearbox parts need to follow. That would cost me at least 4 days. And today, you click on the gearbox, you pull it left, and 2 seconds later, the gearbox
Exactly.
is all there. And the
All
same
the
would happen.
boring work is done.
Yes,
Yeah.
but would you still need engineers to design the thing? Of course.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a wonderful example. I will use that. I will quote you with that. I like that very, very much, because that's a wonderful picture how it works. A
Yeah.
final question to you, Martin. You engage in the I3PM, in this
Yes.
International Institute for
Ah.
IP Management. You
Yeah.
are in
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. 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 That's my baby. I love it.
You are in the committee. So there are so many committees there.
Yeah.
You are in the committee for software patents,
Yes.
together,
Yes.
Jill and Bastian. So what are you doing there? What is your mission?
Okay. The number one mission is we look at the users, right? So how can we get better patent applications for software? And the question is now, what is a good patent application? And there are lots of motives what make you file a patent application. We talk about motives. What can you do? What can you expect from a patent, application or a patent? And it's not always going to court, right? That's it. Then the number two at the same level issue is, how can we get software patented? Because I mean, when I started in 1992 in the patent area, there were even discussions whether or not you should get a patent for anti-blockage system for car brakes. That is it. Today, there's no question that there are programs patented for that. But today we talk about we don't talk about hardware so much, but we talk about software, and on the 7 ISO levels between the hardware and the user interface, and what can we patent and how can we patent. Then the next big issue is about the artificial intelligence. By the way, Martin Schweiger says there is no artificial intelligence. Right? If you ask Bastian Best for in the same committee, I also a chair, he would throw knives after me when I say this. So you see, we are not even
Wonderful.
You are not even. We have controversy there, so and that's a very exciting
Very good.
environment. I like it because only then would you get further. I come from a background. I had one famous decision, which is the Infineon, is about the 1 divided by F noise that went to a European appeal chamber, and I won it. Then the same decision was object of a enlarged Board of Appeal decision about 2 years ago. So, and I would say today about 50% of the patent applications that I do, they have to do with software. So there's no doubt that this is an important issue. And
Martin,
some of
thank
the
you. Martin, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we run out of time now. We could do that for many hours more. Fascinating. I learned a lot from you. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we were not able to pick all the comments here in the discussion. Very interesting comments. What to do with IP patent prosecution, enforcement, whatever. So, Martin, you will be available on LinkedIn to answer to the questions. Thank you very much for that. I will do my best to do that also. And thank you very much for having you. And looking forward, all the best for your seminar, for your Malaysian robo workshop. And I'm happy to see you next. Bye. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Alex. Bye-bye.